So there's a bill that is circulating in Congress right now called Right to Repair. And this is coming off of the problems that we've had for a really long time, actually decades, of manufacturers of automobiles, but also like tractors, like farm equipment, and also computers as well, hardware, that it's made in such a way that it's difficult to repair. It's becoming more and more difficult to repair. And more these manufacturers, they're putting like a software lock in there where you have to use the company's diagnostic equipment that is specific to their brand in order to diagnose the problem and to fix it, thereby eliminating the possibility of someone who actually owns whatever piece of hardware it is to be able to fix it themselves. And this is something that I've complained about myself. I mean, I've fixed my own equipment. I like to fix my own vehicles as much as I can. And it's just the way everything's engineered. It's getting more and more difficult to do. I remember, I'm old enough to remember cars from the 80s and the 90s. And, you know, you had, especially early 90s and 80s, you had plenty of space to, you know, you can work in. You could take things apart, put them back together relatively easily. You know, things that are, you know, normally would be what I would think is easy to get to, like your water pump, your alternator. I mean, you got plenty of space there. You could take it out, put it back in. But more and more, they're building vehicles in such a way that everything is so tight in there that you have no space to work. You have to pull a lot of things out of there to get to something before you can fix it. There's also the case of computers. Apple is famous for this, where you have to basically buy like a subscription to update anything, to use your printer, etc., etc. Windows is getting crappier too. Everything is like a spy tool on Windows. They take screenshots. They want to put your data into like an AI algorithm, and that's just crazy. And it gets sent back to Microsoft. So, you know, a long time ago, I started using Linux, and I've always told people to use Linux. You know, Linux takes a little bit of time to get used to. It's not really that hard. I mean, there's versions of Linux out there that, you know, you can get a handle of, you know, maybe give it a few days. But, you know, stop using, you know, things that, you know, you don't need to use that require subscriptions, or at least partition your hard drive so that you can have two different operating systems. You know, you can switch back and forth. And by the way, I've been told, I haven't seen this myself, but I've been told that Windows will actually delete a partition of any other operating system. So Windows actually automatically deletes your other operating systems within your hard drive so that Windows is the only one, which is also just crazy. But, I mean, we're talking about, with regard to farmers being arrested for trying to fix their own tractors. Trump made a speech where he publicly said he pardoned somebody that was going to go do 7 years in prison because he was fixing his own tractor. I mean, just that is absolutely insane. Another name, John Deere, is very famous for this. So they have patented components where you can't, you're basically licensed through their equipment that you have to fix it the way they want, or you have to fix it by them. You don't have the right to repair equipment that you buy from them. See, at that point, you're not actually owning something, you're renting it. You don't have if you don't have the right to repair it, and you have to repair it by them, you're no longer an owner, you're a renter. You're now, you know, it's the same principle as these big pharma, where instead of curing a disease, they treat a disease, right? All their patents is all about treatments. They don't fund the cure for anything, because again, it's rent-seeking behavior. They want to extract as much rent from you. They want you to pay for your health. They want you to pay to continue using something that you supposedly own. We're talking about putting kill switches in cars, which, by the way, cars all have kill switches in them anyway. But they're updating these kill switches in such a way that there is an algorithm in your vehicle where it'll shut off or won't start if the computer thinks that you're impaired for whatever reason. And I'm not an advocate for drunk driving, for example, but I mean that's a few steps above what anybody should have, any kind of power that somebody should have. Perhaps you're not impaired. Maybe the computer thinks you are, but you're not, and it won't let you start the vehicle. I can think of a lot of problems with that. Imagine being in a position where you have to get a vehicle out of the way very quickly, and you can't start it because, let's say, you're kind of in a panic, you're in a rush, and trying to get out of a situation. Say your car is stuck in a ditch and there's a lot of rain and it starts to flood. And you're like, I got to get this car out of here. Well, it won't let you start it because the computer will think you're impaired. Or shuts off. Can you imagine if you're in traffic and the car says, well, we're going to shut off in 30 seconds or a minute? And in some cases, if you're in a big city, you're not going to be able to pull over in that time, especially during rush hour. So, this right to repair, I mean, I think that would be common sense, but, it really violates the principle of owning something. These companies, they're not trying to make better products. They're trying to make you a renter from them instead. I mean, not being able to fix something, making something difficult on purpose so that you can't fix it or make it difficult to fix. I mean, that's pretty bad. I got really frustrated many times with particularly vehicles that are very difficult to repair, or with Windows, which I just stopped using. I said, you know what, that's enough. I'm not using Windows anymore. There's so many back doors. I mean, there's so many ways that Microsoft can get into your computer. It's not secure. It's not private. They try to force you to upload everything to the cloud, and it's not secure. It's not even your own computer. Now, granted, everything on the internet is public anyway, but you still have your own computer. You still have your files. And for someone to read that, I mean, that's basically you're hacking into the person's computer. Or with Microsoft, it's just par for the course. I mean, it's something that you quote unquote agreed to. But so yeah, I stopped using it. I just use Linux. I prefer older vehicles because I can fix them. But I mean, they're trying to make it obsolete. It's like the whole Clash for Clunkers. Remember that over a decade ago? That just got rid of a bunch of old fixable cars and replaced them with these really just the junk that is being produced today. So it's deliberate. It is a conspiracy between like the major corporations and government colluding together, which, by the way, is not capitalism. Capitalism is a separation of economy and state. These companies are lobbying Congress and saying, you can't, you're not allowed to touch electronics in your car. That's a collusion. It's not capitalism. It's really, by definition, it's a form of fascism. Really, it's the collusion of economy and state in such a way that it immobilizes the individual. It's meant to extract as much rent from people and to control them, is what this is all about. It's definitely un-American for sure.